Have you ever felt like the silence in your life is louder than any noise you've ever heard? Or perhaps you found yourself desperately searching for answers in a world that seems to only offer more questions. What would you do if the person who promised to be your forever suddenly vanished, leaving nothing but a cryptic note and a gaping void in your life? For me, these questions are not hypothetical. They are the reality I wake up to every day. There was a time when life seemed like a series of vibrant moments strung together in a tapestry of happiness. I had a husband, a partner, who was the center of my universe. We shared everything, dreams, hopes, even mundane daily routines that somehow felt special because they were ours. But all it took was one day, one unexplainable decision to shatter that glass bubble I thought was unbreakable. It's funny how silence, something so vast and empty, can weigh so much. It's like a heavy fog that wraps around you, muffling even your most desperate screams for clarity. When he left, he took more than his physical presence. He took my sense of security, my understanding of reality, leaving behind echoes of a life that once felt solid. Friends who once surrounded me drifted away, unsure of how to handle this new hollow version of me. I can't blame them. I barely recognize myself. I find myself trapped in this loop, replaying our last moments together, dissecting every word, every gesture, hoping to uncover the flaw that caused this collapse. I pick through our memories like someone sifting through ashes, seeking a glimmer of what was. But all I find is the haunting question that has no answer. Why? The silence grows like an uninvited guest, feeding on my isolation, turning my home into a mausoleum of what used to be. I used to think silence was peaceful, but now I know it can be the loudest scream, echoing reminders of unanswered questions and dreams deferred. The morning he left was a blur of routine, the kind where you move through motions without thought. I remember the ominous quiet as the sun cut through blinds, casting lines on our shared bed. It struck me then, the emptiness, like a physical presence that invaded every corner of the room. I found his note on the counter, a few words scrawled haphazardly, a farewell that echoed louder in its brevity. My heart sank, a stone in a pit of a lake, drowning under the weight of questions that would never find answers. No. The shock numbed my senses first, a strange kind of anesthesia that carried me through those initial hours. But soon the anesthesia wore off, and pain clawed its way into consciousness, a relentless beast gnawing at the edges of sanity. Each day felt like trudging through thick, suffocating fog. I became a ghost in my own life, tethered to a reality that no longer felt like mine. His absence was a constant hum, a low-frequency buzz that permeated even the most mundane tasks. Null, I tried to reach out, to grasp fragments of a past that slipped further away with each passing day. Friends became silhouettes, their attempts at comfort drowned out by my internal cacophony. Social gatherings only highlighted the isolation embedded in my bones. I was surrounded yet desperately alone, a solitary figure in a bustling world. No nights were the worst, where sleep eluded me, replaced by a stark, unforgiving clarity. I wandered our home like a revenant, haunted by memories that danced mockingly just beyond reach. I clung to hope like a lifeline, scouring familiar places, hoping to find him, or at least a reason. But each empty return only deepened the abyss. Null. In pain, I penned letters I'd never sent, conversations with a ghost. They spoke truths I feared and held apologies that burned my tongue. My mind fragmented, suspended between a yesterday that felt stolen and a tomorrow that felt unreachable. I stood on the precipice of collapse, a silent scream caught in my throat, waiting for something, anything, to silence it all. The nights stretch out like an endless shadow, swallowing me whole in their silence. I float somewhere between wakefulness and dreams, where memories creep in like uninvited specters. The note, with its cryptic finality, replays in my mind like a broken record, each syllable a reminder of what was and what might never be again. My heart, once a steady drumbeat, now stutters and falters under the weight of these memories, each beat a painful reminder of absence. Null, I find myself wandering through the hazy corridors of my mind, a place now littered with fragments of laughter and whispered promises. Ghostly echoes of his voice bounce off the walls, mingling with the silent screams I dare not utter. Everything feels detached, as if my limbs move through molasses and my thoughts, once vibrant, now fade into muted hues. I watch myself from a distance, an actress in a play I no longer understand or belong to. Null guilt gnaws at my insides like a ravenous beast, a constant companion in this isolation. What did I miss? When did the world begin to crumble? Questions dart like frantic moths in the dark, seeking light, yet finding none. My body bears the marks of this silent war, weight slipping away, energy sucked into the void. Even the sun's warmth feels foreign, a forgotten lover's caress. Null exhaustion clings to me, an unshakable shroud. Each morning is a Herculean task, rising from the depths only to face another day of memories intruding like thieves. They are relentless, these memories, threaten through my consciousness with razor edges, pulling me back to places I've tried to abandon. I am a marionette, strings tangled in a past that refuses to let go. Null helplessness is the air I breathe. It fills my lungs, heavy and stifling, a fog that clouds every thought. Yet, in this despair, there's a small, flickering light, a cruel irony, perhaps. It speaks of survival, whispers of a self yet to be reclaimed. I want to reach it, this fragile hope, but my hands tremble, unsure of their own strength. I am here. In this silence that both buries and defines me, I am here, waiting for the echoes to fade, for the fragments to reassemble into something whole, something new. Null, I find myself drifting in a sea of silence, where the vast emptiness of the room echoes the hollowness within. Each breath is a whisper of lost time, a reminder of a life unraveling, like threads caught in an unforgiving wind. I once believed that silence was my shield, a place to hide from the world's relentless demands, but now it has become a suffocating void, a relentless companion in my solitude. The quietest moments scream the loudest, reverberating through every corner of my mind, each pause a knife, twisting deeper into wounds that never heal. Null, null. The fortress I built from memories crumbles under the weight of unshed tears. I search for answers in fragments of the past, pieces of a puzzle that will never fit together. Each photograph, each forgotten trinket carries the scent of betrayal, a haunting melody that plays on repeat. I am a ghost in my own life, drifting between echoes of laughter and shadows of despair. The laughter now feels like a distant echo of a life I barely recognize. It is in this bleak landscape that I reach the precipice, staring into the abyss with the eyes that have seen too much, yet remain blind to hope. Null, null. In this desolation, I sense a shift, a stirring within the ashes of my existence. The past has tethered me too long, and perhaps it's time to let go, to cease the endless search for meaning in another's absence. I am drawn to the faint glimmers of forgotten dreams, whispers of who I once was, urging me to breathe new life into the ashes. I stand on this edge, recognizing the strength in my own vulnerability. There is a quiet power in facing the void and choosing to step back, to rebuild from the fragments I have left, battered but determined, dot null nulles. I trace the contours of my own heart. I begin to see that this silence is not a tomb, but a canvas. The pain, the loss, is not the end of me, but a testament to a love so profound that its echoes still resonate. In the shadows of this despair, a tender seed of acceptance takes root. I am more than the sum of my scars. I am the whispered promise of dawn after the darkest night. I choose to embrace this silence, not as a prison, but as a sanctuary where I can learn to trust the sound of my own voice again. And perhaps in time, I will find the strength to sing dot null. Null, the echoes of a world unraveled, still hum in the silence of my own heart. Each day I wake, the past drapes itself over me like a familiar yet unwelcome companion. The man who left without a word, his absence like a tear in the fabric of my reality, whispers in every corner of my solitude. I've learned to breathe with this shadow, though it clings to my ribs like a wayward ghost. Null, null. The pain remains, swaying like an old forgotten melody. Yet within its discord, I find traces of something half remembered, strength. At first, I was lost in the fog he left behind, but in the emptiness, I began to listen, to understand that the silence isn't just the void he left, but also my own voice, waiting patiently to be discovered within the stillness. Null, null. There are days when the ache flares without warning, raw and unrelenting. Yet, I have started to see the beauty in its imperfection, the way it threads through my story. I may never understand his departure, may never stitch close the wound, but perhaps healing isn't the closure of past scars, but their acceptance. Null, null. In my solitude, I am slowly learning to reach out, weaving new connections from the tendrils of my grief, sharing my story not as an ending, but as a beginning. Each word I offer is a step toward a voice unburdened by silence. In this story, I find fragments of hope, a quiet resilience whispering through the echoes. Null. In the gentle hush of pre-dawn, Sarah sits by the window, tracing the silhouettes of a world awakening. The soft light caresses the room, revealing everything and nothing, an ally to her newfound quietude. Within this fragile peace, she senses an understanding unfurling like the petals of a reluctant flower. Her heart, once in turmoil, slows to match the rhythm of the morning's breath. Each inhale and exhale, a reminder of life after devastation. No, the bitterness of abandonment lingers, but its edges have softened. She contemplates the silences that once screamed in her ears, realizing they now weave a different story, one not of loss, but of survival. The echoing absence of his presence becomes less haunting, more a somber melody to which her life finds new harmonies. She sees herself in a mosaic of moments, every jagged piece vital to the whole picture she is piecing together. In her solitude, she uncovers shards of buried dreams and forgotten passions, treasures she hadn't realized were her own. Null. The knots of longing loosen as she acknowledges the inevitability of unanswered questions, the acceptance transforming them from constraints to companions in her journey. She imagines the words she never voiced as wisps of vapor dissipating into the air, surrendered to the universe's care. With each breath, a stitch closes over a wound, not for erasure, but for healing. Her heart, though scarred, beats a resolute symphony of endurance, echoing a newfound mantra. Pain need not be buried, only understood. And so Sarah sits with herself, her reflection no longer a stranger, but a dear friend, weathered and wise. Null. Have you ever been through something you've never told anyone about? something that still lives in your chest? No, if you feel like sharing it, we're here. Drop your story in the comments, even just a part of it. Every week, we turn one of your stories into a cinematic video, just like this one. No, this is a safe space. Your voice matters. You're not alone.